All right, shalom, everybody. Welcome. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Jehovah's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it is in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect tonight's message. Amen. Welcome, everybody. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Namaste, ni hao. Aqua aba, etc. Habari, jambo, mimi ni Kofi, Nina Franco, kutana na wewe. And I'm sorry, Shalom Nai Kofi, Mashalam Chi, Kwame Yashrel, Barak Allah Sham Yakaba. We are excited to be in front of you one more again. I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. And we're thankful and grateful once again for all of you being on with us today. We appreciate your time. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Hopefully, it's getting warmer where you are. Prayerfully, you're being safe on whatever travels you may be taking at this time of year. We appreciate you. We honor you. We honor your presence. We give our praise and honor to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, our website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D. Well, there and Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we thank you for helping and supporting her to make sure that the health of diaspora is our number one goal. So we thank you. We honor you. We appreciate your time. Hello. Shalom to everybody, whether you be on YouTube or TikTok, to the moderators, ministerial staff, SOC, etc. We appreciate you. And thank you so much for being on with us. How are you doing? Is it Livy? I hope I'm saying that right, Livy. Thanks for being on with us. Hello to everybody. And I see Coco, Sir Steven. How you doing, my friend? Miss Mac, Deborah up there, Sister Deborah in the States, Rhonda, Sherlin, Brother Rick. How you doing? Praying for you as always. Her 3802, Brother Ali, to Lottie down here, everybody, Tree by Living Water. Thank you so much for being on today. We want to talk about something simple and yet something a little complicated, something that kind of frustrates people when we say anything. Hey, how you doing, Draco? Hola. We are excited to be with you guys today. Hello, Brother Alton, if I didn't say so already. We want to talk about the worship of slave masters. The worship of slave masters. If somebody says that we are making stuff up or you're making too big a deal or stuff is not what it is, we have to ask ourselves, why do we worship slave masters, especially in the West? And if we could even make it more specific today, especially in the United States of America. How you doing, Shabbos? See, it's always interesting when you talk about slavery, chattel slavery, any type of history like that, and you're talking about our diaspora. One of the first things that people talk about is make sure you mention all the people who sold each other into slavery, which, by the way, it's a true fact. Nobody said, oh, sorry, I just hurt myself. I just cut myself by accident. Nobody said that we didn't have slave masters. I'm gonna be all right. Nobody said that we didn't. How you doing, Sister Betty? At the same time, though, why do we never talk about the fact that people are totally comfortable and okay? How you doing, Minister Maria? Nobody ever talks about being totally comfortable with worshiping slave masters. If we were to look at the United States of America, what's one of the easiest ways we can see that we worship slave masters? Look on your money. It's actually pretty simple. Look on your dollars. Your $1 bill, $2 bill, $5 bill, $10 bill, $20 bill, $100 bill. Sorry, I skipped one, $50 bill as well. Right? Look on your penny, your nickel, your dime, your quarter. We give honor to slave masters while talking about why do you guys keep bringing up slavery? You live in a place where literally you do not exchange anything, which, by the way, remember, what is the definition of capitalism? Capitalism is defined as when politics, a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. The trade and industry is wielded by private corporations for profit and not the state. So, in capitalism, you make sure that those who have capital, they are king. Capitalism never got rid of chattel slavery. The 13th Amendment never got rid of chattel slavery. It just changed the parameters of it and now says that you can't be a slave just because of your color. And so many people are enslaved. But we exchange in order to buy something. In order to barter for something, we still make sure that slave masters, even dead ones that are still worshiped, we ensure that we make sure that we invoke their spirit, if you will. Certain things you need to make sure that Washington is pulled out. Slave master. How you doing, Sister Shima? How you doing, Miss Pierce? If we want to buy certain things, you better make sure Abraham Lincoln is represented. Slave master. Yes, Abraham Lincoln did own slaves, by the way. Right? If you want to make sure that you pay for certain things, you better make sure that Andrew Jackson's going to be on some of that stuff, that he's a slave master, Tennessee slave master. When you're talking about spending them Benjamins, you better make sure Benjamin's on there. Why? Because Benjamin, yes, Benjamin Franklin did in fact own slaves. And we know this, but for whatever reason, we act like we don't still admire that. We talk about, hey, Declaration of Independence, 1776. As much as everybody says, forget the past, let's celebrate 1776. How you doing, Minister Tamara? Let's make sure that we give honor to, on July 4th, Independence Day, 1776, the day we fought for all of our independence. Problem with that is, though, is that, was it for the independence of all or for the independence of a few? The hypocrisy of telling people that they should forget about slavery, but you can't even barter, you can't even buy things. How you doing, babe? Once again, my wife is on. Please check out my wife. Once again, the Honorable Mai on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. So if I'm going to make sure, right? If I'm going to make sure that I do this, right? I wasn't aware of the Sphinx that's to the right of Lincoln. I'd have to look for that. You're bringing something new to my attention. So, but if I'm going to be honest about it, when I look at Mount Rushmore, when I see the site, right, I even have to look at slave masters or Teddy Roosevelt, who we can't say was a slave master in the same way others were. His family members definitely were. But if we're going to look at him, we have to admit that Teddy Roosevelt was okay with wiping out the native indigenous population and saying that Black people were not worthy or were not as smart as everybody else. And when people say something about it, they say, well, it was just the times. But the times haven't changed if we still look up to him. And we don't say there's there. Now, by the way, even when somebody says that's the times, that's one of the worst arguments that's there. Of course, gotta acknowledge my queen. Have to acknowledge my queen, right? You know, but it's always interesting that we say, I'm sorry, you said that's such a great point. We're reminded of slavery every moment, cash, dead slave owners, right? And even if you look on the back of, like, you know, the dollar bill, stuff like that, and everything they have, you know, people, when they say, look at that lantern, they tell you, hey, look, if you look closely, you can see a slave hanging. And don't forget that the White House, right? The White House, literally, if you look at the White House literally was a house put on a plantation. Washington, D.C. was made into a plantation. Slaves lived on there. That's why one of the train stations there is named Foggy Bottom, Orange Line, right? Where you get off into George Washington University Hospital, right? GW. When you get off on that stop, that's Foggy Bottom. That's swampland. That's right. You'll still get bit by a bunch of mosquitoes and stuff in that area. Foggy Bottom. Why is Foggy Bottom important? Because it was called Foggy Bottom because that's where the slaves lived, in Foggy Bottom. Right. That's what it is. That's the reality. That's why they call it what they call it. They didn't even change the name. They didn't even hide it. How you doing, boss treatment? So we live in a society today that says, stop talking about slavery. If you would just stop talking, how many times have you heard somebody say to one of us, if you just stop talking about slavery, it would go away? Kemet was Black, of course. Kemet Street, people who were into people who were burned in the sun. Even if you want to go into the place of even talking about Ham meaning people that were hot, coming out of the birth line of hot, being the second oldest son. Yeah, we're with you, right? So if we're so, I'm sorry, yeah, if you stop talking about racism, it won't exist. Yeah, that's what they say, right? Oh, hey, how you doing, brother Vincent? So, it was just, it was just this, it was just that, but and that foolish thing of it was just the times, right? Because in those times there were people that didn't agree with chattel slavery, but the people who were in charge pushed the agenda. Yeah, I remember you telling me you had other accounts and stuff. So okay, I'll try to remember this the second count if I see it pop up. How you doing, Patricia Lee? Thanks for being part of the community. So we had to ask ourselves if people back then didn't believe in it, but they kept pushing it. If people today don't believe in it, but they keep pushing it. If people don't even realize that if you're in debt, you're a slave, and if you're a slave, you're in debt, so they're still pushing it. Then how do we get rid of slavery? See, the worshiping of slave masters becomes detrimental because that which you worship becomes your guide. It becomes your culture. It becomes what you see yourself as. Matter of fact, there's a lot of people, a lot of black people with the last name Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt. But these are all people, whether you be indigenous to the Americas or you came here on a ship or you be a mixture of the two, you're still dealing with people who would have never wanted anything to do with you. But you cannot barter or exchange in this system without making sure that you bow down to their gods, can you? Matter of fact, when you look at Mount Rushmore, indigenous people to America's many tribes, they don't call presidents presidents, they call them town destroyers. And they even refuse to carry Jacksons. Don't give them certain tribes, don't show up and give them Jacksons. They'll use whatever other type of money they have to use to make up for not having a Jackson, but they don't want a Jackson. Because Jackson is one of the worst. Jackson was so bad. Remember, Jackson was a hero in the Revolutionary War. That's why people started looking at him in the war in a Revolutionary War and everything. And so Jackson became this hero. War of 1812, and Jackson became this hero. And so, as Jackson becomes a hero, during the war, he actually got shot, and he got shot in his arm. Now, as far as Western medicine said, he's gonna have to just get his arm cut off. How you doing, Monica? Right? He said you're gonna have to cut his arm off. That's what their doctor said. Jackson, being a stubborn man, and righteously so on this account, hey, he didn't want to see his arm get cut off. So he said, no, I'm gonna go look for something else. How you doing, Sister Beverly? So he says, I'm gonna go look for a second opinion. He goes to a native tribe and says, hey, help me out. And I need my arm to stay on. Native tribe doesn't really trust him, but they help him out and help him to keep his arm. Guess what their payment was? Jackson would later make sure that tribe was wiped out, or he would do his best to do so. Yeah, it really speaks to how much they love themselves, naming slaves and cities after themselves, of course. By the way, most of these people are deists. They too, even if they change their tune at some point in their life, they believe that they too could become a god or a deity or a spirit over people and have spirit babies and all this stuff, just like people like Mormons do. So it was a consistent theme that a certain group of people, so once again, it's cultural. So if we live in a place where people still uplift slave masters, then why would you think that you live in a system that wants to eradicate slavery or racism or any of that? You said, what's the tussle for? I'm not sure what the tussle is. I apologize. You had to help me out. What is the tussle we're talking about? He says, because they have made, people, hate ourselves and love their wealth and love what they say wealth is, right? Don't know your language, but you better know theirs. But that's because it's a belief. We worship. We're taught to worship slave masters. You're talking about a tassel. Tassel is something that we're supposed to wear, on our, I guess we'd say, like, shirt, or really around the belt region. It's something that identifies us as Israel. So quietly walking around with last name of slave masters is crazy too. Yeah, think about it. Even the names that you're born with, are usually things that came from somebody who would have owned you. You take away your name. That's one of the first things that you do. Slave comes off the ship. Slave comes out of the area. Slave is born. They're not going to have an African Israelite indigenous name. No, you have to change your name so that you identify with your master, because you are his property. Why? Right? You're not his child, but the master's still going to make sure you're named in his image. is going to make sure that you are going to have his last name. That's where a lot of these last names came from. When slaves were freed, a lot of them just kept the names of their slave masters. How you doing, Big Roy? See, we still worship it till to this day. And when somebody says, hey, come out of her, stop worshiping these slave masters, stop worshiping this corporation, somebody says, oh, you're wrong. Yeah, many people have changed their names. And by the way, you have a right to. It's lawful, it's legal, but people don't like it. And sometimes parents don't like it, and I get it. Hey, that's what I named you, and but a lot of people don't know you named us after something that's not ourselves. What's wrong with us? See, at some point, somebody has to break the curse. Whether you're gonna name your child different, or you're gonna make sure you go by your actual name of your actual tribe of your actual people, somebody has to say, "Hey, I'm going to start identifying as myself." That's part of breaking the curse. That's part of getting you the hearts of the children returning to the fathers, and the hearts of the fathers returning to their children. That's part of the reason why we can't even identify where we come from, because at a certain point they started saying, don't have the name of your fathers, do not carry the name of your forefathers. When you wear clothing, you don't even look for clothing with your names on it. You look for clothing of people that that have nothing to do with you and aren't going to share wealth with you. They might get one or two of your people to be models, and that's about it. They'll use your body. That's what Willie Lynch taught, right? Keep the body, but take the mind. How you doing, Israel Whispers? Nice name. Thanks for being part of the community. Right? Keep the body, but take the mind. Walk the runway, but don't have anything that's gonna be you. We'll use you, but we aren't going to let you be you. We're taught to worship this mentality. What is worship at its basic essence, at its core essence? It just really means extreme respect. Give extreme respect. All these presidents, by the way, George Washington's birthday, Abraham Lincoln's birthday, Thomas Jefferson's birthday, all these born days that you're supposed to be about. Federal holy days, federal holidays, holidays worshiped by the corporation where they worship slave masters. Even as a corporation, you work under an owner and you have to work as one body because you're considered to be one person working for the owner. You don't even control yourself. You are literally absorbed into somebody else's body, the body of the owner of the corporation that you decided to sign up and work for. By lawful definition. Yeah, we are abused. What does the word abuse mean, by the way? Again, it means abnormal usage. It is abnormal to allow somebody to use you for profit. Not to have you enter into contract, but I'm saying to use you for profit. But it's become so normal that you're going to watch the NFL. Some of you are going to watch the NFL tonight. It's Thursday night football, isn't it? How you doing, Trauma Shaman? Isn't it Thursday night football? They're suffering from silicone, saline toxicity poison as well. Tuskegee experiments. Sure, the experiment that they did in was it Missouri or Indiana or St. Louis or whatever? I don't remember where it was. Somewhere around there. I think I could be off, but where they had the whole thing with the military was literally poisoning people but putting just enough so that they wouldn't all die off, but to see how it affected them over time. They went into Alabama, not just Tuskegee experiment. Don't forget they went into Alabama and they had families that couldn't read. They had them signed with X's. They had them sign with X's because they couldn't read or write. The black folk there couldn't read or write. So they had them sign with X's and they know what they were signing. And then when their daughters became of age, literally when their daughters started going through puberty, they would come into the home and they would remove the daughters forcefully, take them to the hospital, make sure that they actually had it to where they couldn't have babies, and they would bring them back to the house. You can go read up on it. Many articles. You heard about Tuskegee, but you haven't even heard about that, even though it's not the first time it's happened. By the way, abortions that have become the biggest of deals now, abortions really, for black folks started when they were forcing you to have to take the baby out when you were a slave, kept on doing it through the late 1800s, early 1900s, and Margaret Sanger took over and started paying pastors and people to make sure that we were doing it to each other. Why? Because she felt that Jews and black folk, see the correlation even? She felt that both of them were monsters, that they wouldn't be able to take care of anything, that they weren't going to be great in their communities, that they were going to be terrible. And so why keep having them give birth? Go ahead and let them have less. And we'll deal with less of them. How you doing, Libra Moon? Right? Hello again, Bros treatment. Right? Spraying radiation in the black areas, of course. Right? We live in a country that worships slavery. Use a dollar bill and tell me that there's not a slave master on it. How you doing? I'm sorry if I don't say this correctly. Is it Iran or Iran or Iran? Aaron Emmanuel. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but thank you for being on. Appreciate you. Thanks for being part of the community. The rate of black and brown has fell in the last 5 years. Well, yeah, I mean, and we're helping to do it because we're doing the same thing that the slave masters did. Yes, we do. We have Stockholm syndrome, Brother Vincent. Stockholm syndrome. How you doing, Tone Johnson? It's Dallas and the Titans. Yeah, Titans are sitting Derrick Henry or whatever. They're trying to rest because they don't really need this game. They're gonna try to win the next game or something. They're gonna be a whole bunch of people that are gonna watch that and watch owners of people being abnormally used, and they're gonna keep paying the owner, the corporation, to ensure that you go through your Colosseum experience. We're talking about Roman slavery, chattel slavery, y'all. It's the same thing. And I can see why we don't trust the census. I get you, right? I'm just saying there's enough stuff out there to where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And we're not willing to admit that, like, hey, this is abnormal to have slavery on everything. Slavery in prisons, that's chattel slavery. You're allowed by the 13th Amendment, treat them like slaves. People say the Constitution is for you, but you're not considered to be a people. At least most of us aren't, because we still are part of the corporation. Declaration of Independence, people talk about that, but that wasn't written for you. Heck, you weren't even considered to be a human being. And a lot of you in law don't know how to make sure when you go to a courtroom, you can actually be considered a human being. Yep, you got Tua, had the third concussion of the year or whatever. He's gonna try and press the play, because that's what you do with slaves. You use them until they run out. Yep, they're items. They're not people. This is the country you live in. You think you go to school because they want the best for you as a person or persons or a people, but the reality is, in the school system, you're an item. In the school system, you're an item. You're an item. You're a number on a sheet. You think because you have a mortgage, you're not an item anymore. But what is a mortgage? What does mortgage mean? Working on becoming an SPC. Mhm. The more things change, the more things stay the same. Now that we know, we have this knowledge, how does one change it before they die or whatever? Well, once again, you got to come out of it. First of all, we do it mentally, right? But then we have to come together at some point. And lawfully, you're allowed to have your own land. Lawfully, you're allowed to have common law on your own land, right? But it starts with a place where you have to acknowledge, like, see, these presidents set precedent. So whatever the president does, that's the precedent for the nation. The president is supposed to be, how you doing, Buck, in the system? The president is supposed to be somebody who represents the corporations that got them in there in the first place. So whatever the president is doing or asking for, that's why they get you all riled up. And your politics or your polls, or you as a poly, as a people who are about polls, your opinions, they get you riled up. You didn't care about Herschel Walker until all of a sudden they threw Herschel Walker out there. Do you really think the Republican Party thought Herschel Walker was going to win, y'all? May I just ask? See, like, sometimes we got to ask questions. Y'all know I'm a big why person, right? Do you guys really think that they thought that Herschel, and I'm not a voting person, I don't care about that part. I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, but I'm just being honest. Do you really think they put Herschel Walker out there because they thought he was going to win? Just keep it in 100. He was a distraction. He was something to get you involved in what? The polls, opinions. Everybody threw out their opinions about Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker, look, Herschel Walker is everything the Republican Party says they hate about black folk. I think D.L. Hughley even said the same. Now that I think about it, I think he's quoted, or you can watch him being interviewed on Charlemagne. He called him Charlemagne the God or whatever, but he has a show that he does. I think D.L. Hughley claim on his show. Yeah, he wasn't the great black hope, right? But I need y'all to comprehend Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker, somebody who's proven liar, somebody who doesn't take care of his children, right? Somebody who's not that smart, not that intelligent, does not speak like a by colonial construct or by a social construct, does not speak like a white man. But Herschel Walker's a great slave, yo. You get it? How you doing, Minister Sonia? Sir Herschel Walker plays the game well. He bows down to the master. Whatever master says, Herschel's gonna say. Even if he don't know how to say it, he gonna try his best. Herschel Walker, he's in the house. He a house Negro. Sorry, I know people think that that's me. I'm telling you, look at his actions. I ain't calling him nothing that he don't live. I know some of y'all might think that's being ad hominem. I'm just being honest. Look at how he lives. He's not what the Republican Party wants to give you Ben Carson. The Republican Party, even though he wasn't as great as what they wanted, but they want to give you who was the guy that came up with that plan? It was three numbers, 888-777, something like that. The guy who uh was a was working for Pizza Hut or something like that, who ran for president not too long ago, right? They want to give you people like that. They want to give you people like Clarence Thomas. They want to give you people, they really like women who come up there and cape up. Whenever you want to see them come to the black community, they're going to have black women run in front of you, like Amarosa or what's the girl who used to hate Trump and used to say that Trump was racist and now she works for him now. What's her name? I don't even remember her name because I don't be paying attention to her that much, but Candace Owens. That's who they want. Herschel Walker was the antithesis of everything Republican. They didn't think he was going to win. That was for you guys to all pop up and say, we've got to vote now. Right? And then while that was happening, while you were doing that, somebody who had cognitive dissonance and betrayed his own theology was running too and won. Black pastor said he believed in the word, but said that abortion should be there. It's not according to the doctrine he says he upholds and believes in and where he preaches, but believes in the word, wants abortions, believes that you should be a Democrat rather than part of the kingdom of heaven, and is going to change things by voting rather than listening to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. It was Herman Cain I was thinking about. Thank you. It was Godfather's Pizza. Okay, whichever one it was. I don't remember, but yeah, he ran, right? Like that's the type of person they usually want to run it. Even Herman Cain wasn't that great, but he was better than Herschel. He was light years above Herschel. Herschel, somebody who lied so much, like Herschel Walker used to be. I grew up thinking Herschel Walker every day did 10,000 push-ups. What was it, 4,000? What was it? Or was it 4,000 push-ups, 10,000 sit-ups, and 1,000 somethings, pull-ups or something every day? That's what the rumor is. That's what everybody said he did because he said he did that. But he had roommates that used to be with him, and one roommate actually was sitting there one rising or one evening, whatever it was, and he was just watching them. And the roommate was like, and Herschel Walker finally like kind of got uncomfortable. He's like, "What are you watching?" He's like, "I'm waiting for the 10,000 push-ups," or whatever it was, right? Meaning that Herschel Walker never really was doing it. He just said that. Now Herschel Walker was strong. He workout warrior, but he wasn't doing that every single day. Matter of fact, your body can't handle that every single day. But it was something that he did. He lied even from that point. That's the person they put out in front of you. They like to put out people in front of you like O.J. Simpson. Remember, he's not white. He's O.J. Y'all remember that? The blackest day of O.J. Simpson's life, outside of being in the ghetto when he was young, blackest day of O.J. Simpson's life is when he got away with what he did. That's what many people feel, right? But he got out of that, and then he goes to a black church wearing a dashiki, and then after that, never to be seen by us again. But he is the juice. Didn't you see him run to the airport? Didn't you see him get all those yards? Didn't you see him in those Naked Gun movies? Matter of fact, interesting story about O.J. Simpson. This is how much they couldn't accept, or they couldn't accept anything bad about O.J. Simpson. Interesting story. O.J. Simpson actually was somebody, they were looking at people to play the different roles of the Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger was actually supposed to play the guy, I believe, if I remember correctly, Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to play the guy that actually tried to help the mother in the first episode, the guy who dies. not John Connor, but whatever John Connor's father is, who is younger than him in the future, whatever that character's name was, that's who Arnold was supposed to play. But Arnold kept talking so much about the Terminator, they decided to go with him. But they actually were going to sign O.J. Simpson at first, or they had many people, and one of the people that they were thinking about using was O.J. Simpson, but James Cameron, the one who did either Terminator or Terminator 2, maybe it was Terminator 2, but whichever one. No, it has to be Terminator 1, because Arnold got the part. So they didn't believe O.J. Simpson could be a killer. that's literal. I know that's a little aside, but literally they didn't believe that O.J. Simpson could be a killer. So they were like, okay, we'll go ahead and go with somebody else. We won't hire O.J. Nobody can believe he's a killer. He's a great man. He's nice. He's not black. He's not like them. He's O.J. Who would believe that? But think about that. Who would believe in the time that was that a black man could kill somebody? Of course they believe that, but they were like, no, he's not. He's not like them. That's the type of person they normally yeah, ironic, right? But that's the type of person they'll normally put in front of you and say, we need to vote for somebody like that. Kamala Harris, somebody who didn't even like you, somebody who has black servants working in her house and only invites white people to sit at the table, has pictures of it with her and her white husband. Not saying you can't have a white husband, but I'm telling you the antithesis of everything y'all think she is. And yet, that's who even the Democrats said you needed to vote for. Right? But when you live in a country built on slave ownership, everybody worships slave owners. Matter of fact, who do y'all like more in the movie? Let's just be honest. Some of y'all don't care about Django and the new Django, the newest Django, the one that Quentin Tarantino did. You don't care about Jamie Foxx's character like that. Who y'all remember more? That character, the German character, can't remember his name right now, but that character, the German character, the protagonist, Kerry Washington, or who you remember more? Leo DiCaprio. Who you remember more? Samuel L. Jackson. Why? Because we worship slave owners. We love the villain. You hear what I'm saying? We don't remember them other people, but hey, that slave master, he was doing something. I haven't seen 12 Years a Slave, so I don't know what Lupita and whoever else was in it did, but a lot of people came out talking about Brad Pitt. I'm not gonna watch it. Never gonna watch it. Don't need to watch it. Don't need to watch too many more movies where we watching black people get ripped apart, but and jacked up and raped and all this stuff. You know, I need a reprieve. Y'all forgive me. I need a reprieve, right? But I'm just saying, all these black movies that come out over and over again, us as slaves, 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 over and over again, and we go keep watching them because we worship slave masters. Will Smith coming up with the movie, right? Slave masters. You spend your money to go see the movie. What's on the money? Slave master. It's the same repetitive stuff. So if you live in a country that worships slave masters, then why would you think that they wouldn't want you to remain slaves? If you live in a country to where you're supposed to be $1 million slave, go out there, boy, run that football, dribble and shut up and dribble, whatever it is. Why would you not think that you're supposed to worship slave? You know, so much of this country in chattel slavery. People now like to watch movies about people's prison experiences. Now people just watch YouTube channels and watch Netflix stuff. We just want to see how people beat each other up in prison. Those are slaves, though. That's why they act like that. They're chattel slaves. By definition, by law, they are lawful slaves. Yeah, it's subliminal. And it's really outright. It's even forthright. It's not even a lie. It's just something that's out there. But we're so used to it. We even take pride in it. Hey man, what you doing, bruh? How you been doing? Man, I've been working like a Hebrew slave. How's that even a common term? Why do we even still use that? Why are we still trying to work like Hebrew? Why are we trying to toil like Hebrew slaves? What's the Hebrew slaves' work schedule, y'all? What's your work schedule? From sun up to sundown. You said Brad saved your man from slavery. Okay, cool. Well, like I said, I didn't see the movie, so maybe he's a great character, this and that, or whatever. So I could be wrong with that. I apologize if I misrepresented Brad Pitt. I do. I really do. I'm not trying to be facetious. I don't know the movie. That's why I said I'm not gonna see the movie. Not really interested in it. But hey, if he did his thing, he did his thing, right? I'm just trying to say slavery is such a big thing in this movie. How you doing, Sister Deja? You said they had that series where they were putting young men in prison to get them straight. Oh yeah, scared straight, right? Prison. How do we scare you? We'll show you that you'll be a slave in here. Okay, but we're so fascinated with slavery. We're so fascinated in slavery. We try to put slavery in the Bible at parts that it don't belong, and then we won't put it in parts where it does belong. Teach nothing about equity, so you can remain a debt slave or a wage slave. You're going to work hard and very hard over and over and over again, but you're not going to get that promotion like that in certain places that you're working. It's not designed for everybody to get a promotion. They only got so many slots, and some of those slots, they want to have people that work in those slots 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Wage slave, hoping, going to the government, going to the slave master. Please, when are you guys going to allow us to make the minimum wage go bigger? Virginia. When I was working minimum wage in Virginia, it was $7.25 an hour. I believe still right down to this day, it's $7.25 an hour. Wage slave, debt slave. We worship slavery. You worship slavery to a certain point. You don't even see it anymore, and that's why the people who are here's the most twisted part about it: the colonial construct, white community, and those who would say, "Stop bringing up slavery. You're going to stay in slavery. You're a victim, and this and that." They don't even see that they themselves are debt slaves and wage slaves. Well, they're telling you to stop complaining about the slavery you see. Remember, blind justice, wearing the blindfold on and accepting whatever comes. You said the European construct is to. I'm sorry. What kind of slavery? Conscious slavery. Oh, constitutional slavery by any means necessary. You know, people don't realize like just to be in debt means you are enslaved to somebody. I used to go to the cash checking place instead of go to a bank. Even when I could start going to a bank, always went to the cash checking place. Why I go to the cash checking place and not to the bank? And gave them a percentage of my stuff. Because I didn't realize I was still a slave. I was just like, well, it's quick, it's easy for me, it's in the hood already, whatever. Why is it that we have few banks in the hood, but we got a lot of cash checking places? You said $22 in Cali start fast food. Yeah, we saw that that they had a sign on there talking about $22, $25. It wasn't Jack in the Box. It was what was it we were at in Cali? Something that they really only have on the West Coast or over that way. Um, and tried it out, Burger Spot or something like that. But even in that, the wage for living is higher. So it's better, I guess, but it's still, we're still dealing with inflation. You still don't deal probably was in and out. Probably was in and out. Didn't really like it that much, by the way. I think I liked the sandwich, but the fries I felt were a little off. Um, but it's not my thing, right? You said NYC is going to be 17, but that don't mean nothing. Yeah, I mean, how much is an apartment? You know, apartment, a whole an apartment, a room in certain people's house, a room with a bathroom in it. You got to have a roommate. And then somebody got to sleep on the couch, and somebody got to sleep in the room. I remember last time we did the hotel up in New York City. That was crazy. Paid like $200-300 for a hotel room that literally was like as small. Might have been actually it was smaller than the hotel room that we had in Europe. And European hotel rooms is crazy small. One bedroom in certain places 4,000. I believe it. Saying all that to say, before I get too much into it, right? We deal with slavery, chattel slave owners on just about everything that you're a part of. We wear shoes made by slaves. Nikes, Jordans. They're not just made by slaves in China. They're made by slaves in prison. Most of the people, when you go to fast food restaurants and they say, "May I take your order, please?" That shirt that they're wearing, that uniform that they're wearing, most likely was made by a slave in prison. Forest fires that are fought in California are fought by slaves in prison. Did you know that? A lot of people might not even know that. They put them out there first, let them deal with the hottest part of the blaze, because if they die, they die. Whatever, they're just slaves. Yeah, amen. That's what we talked about, $1 million. So I guess you say he'd be $1 billion slave. We talked about that even some a few nights ago. If you look at how much money he makes and how much he's going to make the company, basically he's working for a fraction. He's living better than the rest of the people, and he's going to make sure that he's going to be quiet on certain things. He'll talk more about some things, but he's going to keep his mouth shut on certain things because he's still got to get that billion. Oh yeah, parts of airplanes. When you go to airplanes and you sit in the seat, parts of the seat, sometimes the pillows, stuff like that, made by chattel slaves in prison. Women, a lot of the women make a lot of the clothing and stuff like that you see intricately sewn or whatever, and they'll be allowed, if they get pregnant while in prison, sometimes raped by the guards or the COs. But if they get pregnant even before they come in, they'll let them have their baby there, maybe let them breastfeed them or have some kind of intimate relationship for a few months. But after that, baby got to go somewhere, sometimes even the ward of the state. And mama got to do what? She got to stay in prison and work as a slave. Less freedom than most. Well, I never thought about it that way, but real talk, yeah. Yep, speak when you're spoken to, answer when the master calls. Exactly. Kyrie Irving. Kyrie was strong, and he still is strong, by the way. He did about as much as he could if he's gonna play basketball. And by the way, it's not his responsibility. He's not a harlot. He's not a pastor. He's not a leader for us, but he took the lead on something powerful. I salute you, sir. I salute. Matter of fact, let me give him proper salute. I salute you, sir. I salute you for what you did. I'm proud of you. Right? But we knew it was coming, and if you were gonna play basketball, you was gonna have to bow down because you're in the nation of slaves and slave masters that you're not supposed to mention by tribe or by name. We're supposed to be quiet about it, right? As Dave Chappelle said, if you got a bunch of black people, you call them a gang. If you have a bunch of Italian people, you call them the mafia, right? If you have Mexican people, you might call them a gang too, right? But if you see a bunch of of Jews together, right, you call it a coincidence, and nobody speaks of it. You have Leo Cohen that comes on the Breakfast Club and is busy saying stuff that's like you can't even really comprehend what he's saying because he's saying all types of nonsense. But then he comes at the end, towards the end of it, and says, "Oh yeah, well you know what? Like I want to make sure people aren't drugs and this and that." It's like, well then why do you let these people put out songs and stuff where they talk about drugs and talk bad about women and doing this or whatever? And he says, "Well, I got mouths to feed." Yeah, he's a hypocrite. You said in China they build campus to provide workers and corporations, and the corporations go running. Yeah, we talked about that. Yep, they do it in China too, but it's not just in China. They do it in the United States of America. By the way, they're about to start doing that with Amazon. If y'all weren't aware, Amazon, they've been talking about that for some years now, right? I don't know if it's already happened or not. Amazon's building places for their people that work for them to live in or whatever. And so basically, that check, they're gonna go straight to that house. They're gonna build a little place for you to do, and all you're gonna have to do is worry about being part of Amazon. You're just gonna be in a little camp, and your life is gonna be controlled. But because you think that those people get a sufficient wage, and I'll give Amazon, I guess, more credit. They seem to pay people more than what other places do. But you know, slave labor basically is what we're gonna get down to. And hey, since you're gonna be living in our apartment and stuff anyways, maybe we just shouldn't pay you that much. Maybe it'll get to the point we won't even charge you to live in the apartment because hey, it's just a place for you to run in and out of. It's coming. Same way that they had people living in Foggy Bottom right there on the in the slave camp, or the slave the slave plantation. You called it Washington D.C. and Foggy Bottom, and they had overseers there, and every president that was in that White House, all the way up to president number 18 at least, all of them slave owners. If you were in Washington D.C., you had slaves that worked for you. Period. There's not one person that can say that they were a president of the United States of America through the first 18. If you want to go back before then you got to go all the way to the 8 presidents before Washington. Some people would argue 14 and 15. I would say 8, but nevertheless, however you want to argue. But all the way up, starting with Washington, if you start with him with number 1, all the way up to number 18, all of them had slaves in Washington, D.C. Now, George Washington never lived in the White House. He's the only one, interestingly enough, that never actually had a chance to live in the White House, but he designed the White House to be the manor for the president and have slaves on the plantation. That's what it was made for. Washington, D.C. didn't look like what it looks like now. Just like if you go to Monticello, Jefferson's house, it doesn't look like now, what it used to look like. They keep it up because they even like to keep monuments to the slave master. So you can go and still see how Thomas Jefferson treated the slaves and where they lived underneath the house and what he did to the women and how he had a slave Bible and this, that, etc. You can still see all those things, but a lot of the stuff that used to be his now doesn't look the same. Doesn't mean that so now you're actually walking and having business done and stuff like that built on the backs of slaves, literally even the backs of those that are in their graves, their blood still crying up from the ground. And we're making purchases using slave masters, right? If you're using them $2 bills, using Jeffersons. Matter of fact, you don't even want to spend Jeffersons because you hold Jeffersons in too much high regard. They don't make that many Jeffersons, so you need to keep those. Worship of slave masters. You said we are prisoners of war, and they never let us forget that. Ghettos everywhere. And by the way, when did they start calling them ghettos? Because you didn't call them ghettos at first. But then when did they start calling them ghettos, right? They started calling them ghettos. What is an original ghetto? An original ghetto was where you killed the Jews off during, what is called the Holocaust. So when you talk about the ghetto, you're talking about a place to where you kill folk. Or you call it a project. That means that the play. How you doing, Sister Elion? So you call it a project. What is a project? The project is where you're the project, or they project what you're going to do. Oh yeah, most definitely places in India and China, especially when it comes to computer technology in India, right? And now India is trying to be like a China, and now they're fighting for places in Africa to come in and try to gentrify, like China's been doing all the way back since Kwame Nkrumah, since the '60s at least. Even when England had some of those places on lock, and Russia had some of those places on lock, and Belgium had some of those places on lock, and Portugal had some of those places on lock, and France had some of those places on lock. China was still trying to finesse up in there. Now they got it to a point to where there's certain places to where if China doesn't get certain African nations to bow down, guess what? China will turn their power off. Be careful when you keep hearing all this stuff about China's building and China's building that. They're doing the same thing that these colonial powers have, and you're giving up one group for another. Now, the same way in school that they used to make you got to learn Spanish, you got to learn French, you got to learn German. Heck, you even learn Pig Latin sometime, or I'm not Pig Latin, but Latin in some schools. Guess what? Now, some of the languages that people are learning, our children, we still aren't learning anything as far as Indinka. We're still not learning anything as far as Afro. We're still not learning anything as far as Kiswahili. We're still not learning anything as far as Igbo, any of that. But guess what? We are, even though we are these people. However, right, we're not learning Tsalagi or Cherokee or Sioux or Khalifa or Haudenosaunee, etc. We're not learning any of those. However, guess what we are learning now? Now, a lot of schools are saying, well, besides the European languages, now you can start learning Mandarin. Wow. That just happened. We didn't even think about it. I'm sorry, Minister Murray, you said mindset on to the next generation, raise employees instead of bosses, looking for a savior instead of saving ourselves. That's a word right there, sir. Right? Chattel slavery all over again under a different master. Same spirit, though. Fighting for the same position, same origin. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but what against principalities, against the origin of things. Same thing that the original problem was. We're still dealing with the same thing. That's why you better be recognized as a people now. You better work towards it now. We can't free ourselves, but um, but we're too, or we can free ourselves, but we're too domesticated. And really, that's what a lot of people are, right? Pets. Eat this, drink this, right? You don't control that. You can come out to work and you can go back home at these hours. You don't control that. In Japan, they locked down the workers, wouldn't even let them go till they thought they needed to go. Yeah. And by the way, stuff like that happens now. Matter of fact, at these warehouses, a lot of these warehouses, basically you work and work and work. They better see you moving all the time. You better be doing exactly what they say. You better be, do you have stamina, right? Can you stand on your feet? Can you make sure that you lift 50 pounds, basically all day if necessary? Can you do this stuff really quickly? And then once it's over, right? Or once you get towards the end of the shift, guess what you got to do? Your goal towards the end of the shift is to do what is well, your shift and your break and all that is controlled by somebody over the warehouse says, okay, everybody can take a break now, everybody can come back in. Hey, everybody can leave a little early today. We'll make you feel great. We'll play. I don't know what people were playing, but probably people went to warehouses and stuff, and there's probably stuff like Feliz Navidad and all this stuff playing. And I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus, and Santa Claus is coming to town, and jingle bells and all these different things. And everybody said, oh yes, they really love us here. They're letting music play today. They normally won't let us even wear earbuds, but today they'll play music for us. you know it gets to a place, if you're not careful, you fall in love with the slave master, because the slave master is everywhere. Stockholm syndrome by design. Stockholm syndrome by design. It's by design. It's not a coincidence. It can't be this much stuff, and we keep calling it a coincidence, y'all. At some point, Stockholm syndrome by design. This is what it is. So there's another reason for us to come out, right? Have you been designed to fall for the design of the oppressor, or you have been, are you designed to be free? If the brand on you says kingdom, if the brand on you says Yahweh, if the brand on you says covered by the blood, we got to leave. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and yes, the goal is physically. We got to go, or at least acquire something that's ours. You know why your little girl doesn't see herself in anything? Because she lives in a society that says your little girl won't amount to anything. But if you have your little girl on a campus, or on land, or in a community, in a city, whatever we want to call it, and that little girl sees everything that says that she is powerful, and she is outstanding, and she is loving, and she is great, and she's going to change the world for the better, and she is the standard. That's when she says, oh, I'm great. We got to send our boys to places to where they get called boy, and we have to teach them, hey, when they call you boy, you're going to run into it. The police officer's going to do this because you're a black boy, and I know you don't like it, but look, you're just gonna have to do this, and make sure your hands are here, and you're gonna have to, because you don't have a place to where you police yourselves. So you got to go through tears and crying, and watching them cry, and them asking questions. Why is this happening to me? Why do I, what, why? That's not fair. I didn't do anything. I was just born. Yeah, born into a system that wants to use you as chattel slaves. That's the importance of getting back to who we are. Right. And if some people are called to go to the motherland, which we're basically saying is Africa. So if you say you're called to go back there somewhere and be part of your tribe, and make sure that you have something to or get your culture back, or whatever it is, do that. Those of us who are going to be here, we got to do it here. Right. I'm not called. I'm called to make sure that I deal with the loss. And right now, unless the Most High tells me I got to make sure that I take care of those that are here. At least extend them this, extend them a chance to be able to listen to me as the vessel and go through the door who is Yashua, that they might enter into a kingdom mindset and a kingdom mentality. You know, like you got to think about this. And all these jobs where they say you have to get degrees, people don't even care about education anymore. They care about certification. Your child could start learning stuff like project management and get in a PMBOK, thing where basically they could literally be able to get $200,000 positions at certain companies. They could start learning that when they 12, 13 years old. Take a test when they 15, 16. And then go ahead, by the time they graduate high school, and somebody says, well, where's your degree in this and blah, blah. Well, I don't have a degree in this, but I started my own business. I do this or whatever. I have these certifications as far as computers, and I already have, completed everything as far as project management is concerned. You think they're going to turn that person away? Brother Kenyatta, yeah, and Project Man. You think they're gonna turn that person away? But you were taught go to school, do the blah blah. Like if you go there are places that they would love to have somebody. They're waiting, they wishing somebody would just get their project management stuff put together. There's places they're waiting for somebody that can go ahead and be able to just do something as simple as like be an IT specialist on a high level and say, hey, ITs, this is what the project the person who's paying us wants us to do, and I can tell you what to do in IT language, and hey, person who's paying us, this is what the ITs need from you. So when they say this is what they mean. You can get that training before you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in the college, go into debt, and have generational wealth from the beginning rather than generational debt. You can become a doctor without going to school. Many people that come from other countries, they literally take a year, year and a half, go to the Caribbean somewhere, come sometimes even come to the States. They study, 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 and certain things or whatever, finish it up, take their test, they pass. That's all you need. Because after you finish, whether you go 8 years, 10 years through school, or you take some time out to study, then you still have to go through somebody else's program. You still got to do on the job training. They want certification. I work for a company to where we taught people, phlebotomy, first aid, CPR. We had dentists that came in to learn blood work stuff. We had doctors that came in, surgical techs, all types of stuff that people would spend 4, 5, 6 years in. And they couldn't pass the test because they got this education, but they never got anything that helped them to be able to pass the test. But all we taught was to make sure you were certified. The test says you're certified, certification. So we could do something in 2 weeks that it took people 3, 4, 5, 6 years to be able to get. We taught it to you in 2 weeks because our goal was not to give you education, it was get you certification. Can you do this? And once we realize you can do this, now you have a trade. As somebody who's in control of your trade, now you can be the person to look for something that you know is valued. So now that you got this trade, go where it is. Hey, they need somebody on a phlebotomist to do this exact stuff or whatever. So hey, go for the best one that's out there. Hey, they need a surgical tech over here. Go ahead and do that. And you get in the right place, you're gonna be making a whole bunch of bank. How you doing, Pastor Hamilton? Thanks for being on. Thanks for the love. Right. They did all those things. See, it wasn't about education, it was about certification. It still is. Matter of fact, now people are leaving the education piece alone, even though they're telling you still go to school, because now that a bunch of us have started going to school, they changed the game up. They said education is not that important anymore. Back to certification. See, the education, the college education used to be something that was supposed to be only for a certain group of people and really for a certain group of males. So once everybody started going to college, now you got to separate it again. And guess what? A lot of those certain group of males, they're saying they don't care about college and they want crypto, they want this, they want that as payment. And so now they're changing the game up because whoever is going to be in contract with them. See, one thing that we should get that other people have, I keep saying, don't be mad at gentrification. Don't be mad at colonization. Don't be mad at some of these things because certain things should look like you. See, so if somebody else of what you call a race is willing to say, I'm not, as a group of people, we set the tone. And so you're going to pay us in this, you're going to service this, you're going to let us work like this, or else we won't work for you. Then they change the game up, right? It had to take a whole collapse in 2020 for people to realize, wait a minute, I could be, I could be in poverty and live the same life and live a better lifestyle than I did when I was working minimum wage. Oh no, I'm fine. Y'all go ahead, keep the minimum wage job. Now all of a sudden people talking about we need to raise the minimum wage. Yeah, they move the goalposts every 20 years, things like that. I'm sorry, brother. You said we need to reestablish trade skills, sustainable development, economic closed system of sustainable growth. Hmm. No moral. Our behavior towards us is ever pure. Yeah, lots of work in the world keeps you distracted, means nothing to him. Yeah. So at the end of the day, and we have to even, once again, what is the barometer of that? See, if we're going to come out of slavery, we have to ask ourselves, what do we feel is valuable? Like, watch this. If you lived in a community where nobody worked a job, but you all had food and stuff, and you were able to make sure that you could maintain, you could make enough money just to make sure that taxes were paid, even though you could make sure the land didn't have taxes. But nevertheless, if you had to deal with that for a second before you get it established, then money doesn't matter. Did you catch that? If you're in control, if you say this is what we feel is worth something, if you have a community, you say who cares about money, then money wouldn't matter. If you made your own houses, right? Live in your tiny homes, live in your tents, whatever it is, and you had your own food, you had your own clothes, right? You had your own establishment. You made sure you took care of those who were elders. You could do all those things within yourself. You had people that were healers. You had people that could do things, and you made sure that you had access to a hospital that was close enough. And if an emergency happened, maybe you even have an area that you rent out to other people where they can do, they can have performances and stuff like that or whatever, but they can still be closed off from you, and you can still have your own stuff. Guess what? Like, it don't matter. You get to establish whatever it is. And if you say we don't care about fiat cash like that, then nobody cares. There's places that exist like that where nobody cares about fiat cash. Nobody cares about cash. Nobody cares about money. That see, we're told this stuff, and see what happens is where they lie to us and they say, oh, that's third world stuff. There's tons of places. Do you know there's tons of places that exist in the West? They call them experimental places, but there's tons of places that exist where people don't use money at all, and everybody's okay. Matter of fact, there's places that exist where everybody lives like some of these places in poor places in America and other countries, and they don't have any money. So money is not a big deal. They still trade, but they also have to take care of each other more. They have to take care of each other more. They're forced in a position where they have to take care of each other. See, let's be honest, we don't want to create this type of community because it's going to force you to be in a position to where a lot of stuff that you thought made you who you were, you're going to realize real quick it's not even becoming of you. There's a place to where wearing Louis or Louis Vuitton, CK, wearing CK fragrances, wearing something made by Bay, making sure that you're wearing Sean Combs stuff or drinking Sean Combs alcohol. There's a place to where that has no value, but we've been tricked to believe that it has value. Currency, even part of the definition of currency, it literally means we have to agree on it. It's not even considered to be currency unless everybody agrees to it. If everybody disagreed tomorrow, this is how easy you get rid of money. If everybody agreed tomorrow that they would not trade money, money no longer has any value. So once again, what is capitalism? Capitalism is the system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. That trade and industry is wielded by private corporations for profit and not the state. So what happens? People start getting hip and saying, "Yeah, I don't care about money like that." So what do? Now they start having you argue, and it's voting time. See, during 2020, 2021, people realized we could live without money. So what do? Now you argue, well, if you do this, if you put Herschel Walker in, if you put this person in, if you put this Democrat and this Republican in, this independent person and whomever, if you put them in office, they're going to mess up your money. They hate us. They're going to mess up our money. You just lived without money. Some of y'all live without money for 2 years now. Some of us longer than that. Some of us live without money for a couple years now. And still, all it takes though is somebody to say, "Hey, they're going to take their money. They're going to take your money because they hate you." We've got to vote now. This is what slave masters do. This is what slave owners do. This is what corporations do. You said, could you imagine if men in prisons say we are not going to stay here and what? And revolted or whatever. I mean, well, yeah. I used to say this all the time in boot camp. I used to say it out loud sometimes. I'm surprised I never got caught or got in trouble for it. But I just used to every once in a while be like, what if everybody here just said no one day? Like we outnumber everybody and we got to be the next people to fight for this country anyway. What if everybody just one day was like, nah? See, but when you speak like that, I admit I never would have gone through with it at that point in my life because I also would have been like, oh, but what if they come and what if they do that? Look, there's more of us than they are now. You think they're going to kick everybody out? And if they did, what does that, what does that do to the bottom line? See, because you represent the bottom line. Your life is money. Your life is currency. It's been that since you were born, birth certificate, but your life is money. They say we're 30% of the population. So if it's true that America has what 320 million, I'm gonna keep it at 300 million. It's easy for me to do the math. So if it's 300 million of us, what is that? Like 45 million people are black. What if 45 million people just said, yeah, we done, we out? What does that do to the economy? See, that's the power that you have when you say that maybe I'll enter in the contract and be an indentured servant, but I won't be a debt slave. You mess around, say the wrong thing, I'm out. I'm done. And every president knows that. Every slave owner knows that. Every Jordan knows that. Every Warren Buffett knows that. Every Oprah Winfrey knows that. Every Tyler Perry knows that. Oh, yeah, I thought we were just talking about white folk. No, no. Every one of them know that. The day that you say we out is the day that this thing falls apart. And here's the awesome part. The word of Yah says we can go ahead and say we out. We can leave and we'll be protected when we do so. Do you have the faith to do it? Faith of a mustard seed. Man, I only see a small glimmer of hope. Okay, that's faith. Let's go. Problem is though, if 100 of us go, with a thousand, and it's 10,000 of us. I don't know if it works that much because even out of the 10, so the 9,900 left, some of those people, out of fear for what the slave master might do to them because they're afraid to leave the plantation, they'll probably help hunt us down. They'll tell the slave master before we even leave. This is why we have to get to a place to where we say we have to do something outside the plantation. We're working on it. That's why we're trying to get these fundraisers, trying to figure out a way to do these things and come up on this and slowly get back to, or not even get back to, we're getting closer, but get back to ourselves. Yeah, okay, get back to ourselves, but also get up to financially where we need to be. Because at least even to just say we own something, even if we don't have anything structured, is a whole different ball game. Even if you flip the first one to buy a better one, it's a different ball game. And so you've been conditioned to love the comfort of some of these worldly possessions. Yeah, a lot of us are. A lot of us are. That's why there's levels to it. We're learning, we're growing. Our whole lives, we've been conditioned. Look, if you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, whatever you are, and your whole life somebody told you, get the house, get the money, get the car, get the white picket fence, get all that stuff or whatever, and now you got it. And here comes somebody crazy Kofi over here coming to you and saying, hey y'all, we should give up all these possessions that you had to work your whole life and somebody told you your whole life this is what made you who you are. Yeah, like that sounds like I'm out my mind because I don't think like the world does anymore. So I'm out of the world's mind. See, there's a saying, boy, you ain't in your right mind. Yeah, yeah. Like or see, I was in somebody else's mind, but now let this mind be in me that also was in Yahshua HaMashiach, who said that the earth ain't in his home anyways. Because there's coming a time to where this earth is as much as I need to make sure I learn the principles of how to do stuff on earth and bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. At the end of the day, this earth will pass away, and so will heaven. But His word, the standard, will remain forever. See, even when I pass away, I can't take a hearse with me. I mean, I can't take a U-Haul with me. I don't know how the Most High will handle my burial and how my wife will handle my burial. Right? I've given some things that I like or whatever. But at the end of the day, look, I can't take a thing with me. I'm taking these principles. I'm taking this love. And so I'm trying to learn and apply those things now. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't have land. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't worry about stuff. If you become rich, I pray that you do become rich. I pray that you use your riches for the kingdom and for your in your environment. But I'm just saying, thank you, Sir Stephen. I'm just saying that we have things to do. So, it starts with a mindset. It starts with a culture. It starts with a everyday philosophy. I'm going to grind, 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 grind towards this, right? But I'm grinding with the kingdom. Now, be in your work and not your toil. If you got to toil a little bit, job a little bit, that's what yob is. So if you got to toil a little bit now, go ahead and toil a little bit, right? That's okay. But don't forget to get your work together, get your calling together. Like we talked about last night, become the puzzle piece. How do you fit in to something bigger than yourself? See, when you start looking at something bigger than yourself, the vision becomes bigger than you. That means that you have to be in submission to something bigger than you. That means the mission is bigger than you. That means that your lifestyle, anybody that comes into it, they got to be bigger than just themselves. And if you're going to even get married or become one with somebody at some point, right, that means that they got to be somebody who's willing to have something that's big enough to even hold what you're doing or to support what you're doing, right? And at the end of the day, no matter how rich you become, make sure that you follow the law. Why? Because it's easier, right, for a camel to go to the eye of the needle, even though that doesn't mean exactly what we think it does. But nevertheless, it's easier for a camel to go to the eye of a needle than it is for the rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Don't get so caught up on riches that you have to make a choice between Yahweh and Mammon. Make the choice always Yahweh, and he will provide everything you need anyway. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all his righteousness and all these things you're looking for. Because even people with riches, they still looking for more. There's people with riches still hoping that their life gets better. The riches don't do anything but just cover one piece of it. You want wealth, not riches. There's people who make well below the poverty line and travel better than people who are millionaires. Because riches is not everything. More money, more problems. We have people in here that some of y'all would consider to be rich. And we praise y'all for them. And praise y'all for some of the things that they've done for some of our people behind the scenes. Taking care of a whole lot of people. I promise you though, they got problems a lot worse than some of yours. And they got problems because see, if something happens to somebody in their family, they're the ones that everybody in the family come to. You're like, oh, everybody in the family comes to me because they want prayer. When stuff goes bad for them, everybody in the family comes to them. Hey, you gonna take care of this situation? This costs 15,000. You're gonna take care of it like that, and just everybody just say you supposed to. You supposed to. That's not how that works. In a sense, dealing with what is that the $500 money line. I know you got it, and you say that you a follower of the way. You say you follow the Most High. Take care of your family, cut. That's what some people out here dealing with. And thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for being on. So we're going to get it together. We're going to get better, and we're going to stop worshiping slave masters. I thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being so kingdom-minded and oriented. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the rise, and thank you guys who were part of the watch party. We'll do the watch party again tomorrow. We'll probably take a break on Saturday and Sunday and continue it prayerfully if all things work out tomorrow. Prayerfully, if all things work out tomorrow, we should be finished with the second episode of Reclaiming the Throne. So we can go ahead and on Monday prayerfully start at the beginning of the third episode. But thank you guys for being with us. We appreciate you. Thank you for those who have been looking at the tassels and different things. Remember the next set of classes, I should have that updated hopefully on the calendar, or not on the calendar, but hopefully on the website. But we should at least be able to give you guys a list of the classes that are going to be starting not until the second Monday of next year. So if you want to join some of the classes and stuff, I believe we're going to do, I don't remember the names of all of them, but I think it's going to be, I don't know the order yet, but it's basically going to be Sovereignty 1 and Sovereignty 2 out there again for people that want to take that. We're going to be dealing with Hebrew characters. We're going to do basic Hebrew. And we're gonna have some other classes that are basically Hebrew other levels, but we're gonna call them something different. So it's basically gonna be something like basic Hebrew, speaking Hebrew is going to be something where we start speaking nothing but Hebrew. Remember, I've been trying to get that together. So we're going to do something like that. And then we're going to do something called um, reading Hebrew. And it'll just be stuff to where I'll find passages, I'll find words, we'll see stuff, and how can we read the Bible and kind of translate it into Hebrew in our minds, and also how can we actually just, if we see Hebrew, how can we write it out? And I'm not doing modern Hebrew. We'll do a little bit of modern Hebrew to kind of say things in modern sounds, but we're dealing with paleo, what the Bible was originally written in, what we're going to have for our culture. Okay, so just putting that out there. And I'm not sure what my wife's class will be yet, but she'll be doing something involving natural medicine. So we'll see where that's going to be. So thank you guys. We appreciate you. Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate you. And we look forward to seeing you guys on Kofi_43. So if you don't know about Kofi_43, go there. Become part of the community over there. And we'll be on 8 a.m. Eastern New York time tomorrow over there. We'll be on 8 p.m. Eastern New York time back here. We'll have the watch party at 7 p.m. Eastern New York time. In between there, those who we have meetings with, prayerfully everything works out, and we'll hear from you guys, talk to you guys then. And please remember Watch Night service coming up on Shabbat this year. So Watch Night service going to be at 9:30 p.m. Eastern New York time. And we look forward to getting the word from all these magnificent preachers out here. So we thank you, we honor you, we appreciate you, and we give y'all glory for what's going on. And continue to keep people in prayer, keep our families in prayer, keep those who are, some people have been in and out the hospital, some people have gone through accidents, some people are still traveling. So we're praying for you, and hopefully you're doing the same for each other. Kwame Yashadel. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And as always, Yashadel, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And please remember, please recall this at all times, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care.